Welcome to post-match chat. Oh my God, what an amazing game of cricket we saw today. The seventh match of the IPL. So exciting. The Rajasthan Royals pulling off the most unlikely of victories by 3 wickets over the Delhi Capitals. I tell you what, there were so many stages in that game, particularly in the second innings, where it was a foregone conclusion that Delhi Capitals were going to win. But the Rajasthan Royals pulled out some unbelievable resilience. We're going to break it all down. By we, I mean me, Aatif, Nawaz, and my very special guest today, cricket broadcaster, cricket analyst, just a great guy, Mr. Nikesh Rughani. Nikesh, how on earth have Rajasthan managed to take that game home?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, normally you associate Rajasthan with throwing away games when they're in a winning position. Not very often do we see them win games where they take it right down to the wire. We saw that in their first game, of course, as well, with that Sanju Samson 100. The 6 needed off the final delivery, wasn't quite able to do it. Heartbreak that time around. It looked as though it's going to be deja vu for them. In fact, they looked on the verge of a drubbing, didn't they, at one stage? I suppose when David Miller was out there hitting a few boundaries during his half century, there was just a little bit of hope. And I suppose it's just the IPL, isn't it? I mean, how many matches do we see go down to the final over? Sometimes the final ball as well. Quite often, it just keeps happening every single day. I don't know a league like it in the world where there are just so many close matches, and Delhi had no right to even really be in the game with 147 at one stage, did they? I mean, well below par total, and in the end, Rajasthan just sneaked past it.
And especially considering that it's Mumbai, right? So the sort of mini trend in the IPL so far is like Chennai is the wicket that's very difficult to bat on. It's slow. There's a bit there for the spinners. The boundaries are bigger as well. But in Mumbai, like you're expecting higher scores, maybe higher scores being chased down. Like it's a little bit more batting friendly. But it feels like the seamers have kind of picked it up. And we saw this in the first half of the innings. When Delhi were batting, Rajasthan made the perfect start. Jaydev and Unadkat, beautiful at the top, 3 wickets straight away. I mean, he was extraordinary. Got rid of Prithvi Shaw, got rid of Shikhar Dhawan, got rid of Ajinkya Rahane. You can't ask for more than that.
Absolutely. And, back in the side as well, Jaydev Unadkat didn't play in the first game. It's such an underrated cricketer he is. I'm a huge fan of his. I've known him since he was sort of 19, 20 years old. He was on an England tour with the India A team, along with Jeteshwar Pujara as well, who both played together for Saurashtra in the Indian domestic circuit in the Ranji Trophy there. And he's captain of Saurashtra, and they play their matches in Rajkot. Now, for anybody who's watched international cricket in India, Rajkot is an absolute flat wicket. You're expecting big totals there all the time. We saw there a few years ago when England, played India in a test match, and I think was it 400-500 they made in the first innings. England, it was well over 400 anyway. India responded with 700 and something, and it's just ridiculous the amount of runs that are scored there. And for a seam bowler to be able to bowl consistently well in those conditions, for his domestic figures to always be right up there, he obviously deserves his place in the IPL, and he's showing just how wily a customer he is. 3 for 15 from his 4 overs, absolute perfect start, backed up well as well by the Fizz from Bangladesh, Mustafizur Rahman, of course, and the left-arm seamer's got the job done early on. But I suppose, as long as Rishabh Pant is out there, you're going to struggle to contain Delhi, and his half century helped them get up to that 147, which for most of the chase looked like a very competitive total.
It did. You bang on there, Nikesh. I mean, he was coming in. He came in and he played the kind of Rishabh Pant innings that we know. 51 of 32. So unlucky to be run out. He hadn't quite. He got to 51 from 32 quite effortlessly. There were 9 boundaries, but no 6s in there yet. And you get the feeling he was just about to tee off, and he's run out at the wrong time. And obviously Lalit Yadav is, he made a good impression, but it's the guy's debut. So, and then Curran and Wokes had to come in at the death, and there's only so much they can do. Couple of boundaries for Kagiso, Rabada, and Ashwin. They got Delhi to 147, and towards the end of the innings, I was listening to the BBC commentary, and Tamal Mills was saying, they would bite your hands off for 140. So just to squeeze to 147, I think they will have felt like they've got something to work with, even though it was massively below par. What do you reckon?
Indeed, and I suppose it's been a bit of a trend. I know the Mumbai Indians have been playing their matches down in Chennai, very different wicket there, difficult to score on, it's slow, it's low, the ball doesn't come onto the bat so well. There's not a great amount of turn like a lot of people expected there to be, but it's just quite difficult to score at certain periods of the game. But, you know, they may have just, other teams looked at the way the Mumbai Indians have made 159, 152 in both of their games. The first game when they made 159, they only lost off the last ball to the Royal Challengers Bangalore, almost snatched victory in that. And then the other night, defending 152, it's going to give a lot of other sides confidence. And even tonight, at a ground like Mumbai, like you mentioned, where we're used to seeing high totals, if you can take it down to the wire like that, then I don't think too many teams will be panicking like we've seen in previous seasons if they can only get to the 150, 160. Still very competitive. You don't want to get too carried away. Do you remember in the ODI World Cup 2019, people were talking about 500 totals perhaps, and Virat Kohli in the press conference before the tournament kicked off said, look, pressure does funny things. Big tournaments, pressure does funny things. You're going to see a lot lower totals, a lot of close matches, which could be 250, 260, and that's going to be a competitive total. Same in the IPL, big pressure tournament. You know, you're on the world stage, 160. You've still got to go out and get those runs. Nothing is a given. Doesn't matter if you're playing in Mumbai. Doesn't matter, you know, if you're at the Chinnaswamy Stadium where we're used to seeing big runs over the years as well. 160. If you can bowl well, put pressure on the guys at the top of the order who are playing for their livelihoods, playing for next year's contract. You know, all sorts of permutations. It's a high pressure situation. So, 150, 160, we're going to see a lot more closer games when teams score that batting first.
Definitely. I think the days of you must score 180, 190, 200 are over. You can defend pretty much anything because of the intense pressure, particularly, as you say, Nikesh, in the IPL. We talk about pressure. I mean, Rajasthan Royals came into bat. Delhi made a pretty good start with Chris Wokes, just bowling absolutely beautifully. I remember he got hit for a boundary and then he came back and took a wicket. Rabada did the same thing. He went for a boundary on his first ball from Sanju Samson and dismissed him the next ball. So they made this perfect start. The first wicket fell for 13, the second for 13, the third for 17. And before you know it, they're 4 for 36, 5 for 42, and then 90 for 6. At 90 for 6 at 14.5 overs, it really should be their game. And I just want to single out some of the bowlers that I think did quite well. The opening duo in particular, Chris Wokes and Avish Khan. I think with the firepower that Delhi have, nobody expected Chris Wokes and Avish Khan to be their top two bowlers, but they did a heck of a job today.
They did indeed, yeah. I mean, normally all eyes are on Rabada to do the bulk of the damage. Avish Khan, though, with those 3 wickets, chipping in nicely. But yeah, they had no right to win from the position they were in. But I suppose, Chris Morris, most expensive player in IPL history, proving his worth. There were a lot of question marks about him and the price tag that he went for. There's only one player. I mean, he's the most expensive player bought at an auction. There's only one player who earns more than him in the whole of the IPL, and that includes MS Dhoni. He earns more than MS Dhoni. It's only Virat Kohli who earns slightly more than him in terms of salary for the season. Kohli, of course, doesn't get bought and sold at auctions. He was always retained by the RCB. So, lots of pressure with that price tag. And he delivered, in the absence of Ben Stokes, of course, no Jofra Archer. We don't know if he's going to play any part in this season's IPL. So, 2 of their biggest players missing. And for somebody like Morris to come in and do the job that he did, you've got to tip your hat to him.
You do. It was a phenomenal innings. And we'll come to Morris in just a second. But first, David Miller, like, as you say, he was kind of that, when he went, you think that's it, all hope is extinguished for Rajasthan. But those runs were so crucial. Just kind of steadied the ship a little bit as all these wickets fell around him. So just to run that down, Josh Butler, 2, Manan Vora, 9, Sanju Samson, 4, Shivam Dubey, 2, and then breaking that run is David Miller with 62 from 43 deliveries, couple of 6s in there, 7 4s in there, and a strike rate 144, which is almost irrelevant because it was just about pulling things together and making sure that some of these big hitters at the bottom could come in and do the job. Miller, brilliant. Riyan Parag didn't quite get it going today. Rahul Tewatia couldn't quite accelerate, but Morris, I mean, extraordinary innings, as you say, Nikesh. 36 of 18 deliveries, bang on 200 strike rate, 4 huge 6s that essentially won Rajasthan the game. Now, I know Rajasthan spent a lot of money on him and they want him to win the matches. I don't think they imagined he'd be winning the matches with the bat.
No, I mean, we all know he can bat, and he adds a lot of value in that sort of lower order if needed. But yeah, you don't want to be requiring Chris Morris to hit those sixes at the end of the match to get you over the line. But, you know, as you say, David Miller in the side in place of Ben Stokes, are massive shoes to fill in that middle order. I know Stokes was a little bit higher up the order when he's been playing for Rajasthan in recent seasons. But, you know, coming in place of their best player, the leading cricketer in the world, as he was named by Wisden for the last couple of years. And he delivered, you know, at a time when, you know, you're a few wickets down, you've lost those few early wickets. You not only need to rebuild the innings by sticking around, building a partnership, you need to do it at a pretty good pace. It's a T20 game. You know, you've got to keep your scoring going. And his strike rate was very impressive with all that considered as well. Really set up the platform for those guys down the lower end of the order to come and do the business. We've seen Tawafia do it before. He wasn't able to do it, but you know, Chris Morris stood up and so far has justified why people, you know, rate him as not only a top-class bowler, but a good hitter down the order. I mean, the 2 sixes in the final over, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. It was extraordinary way to win the game with 2 balls to spare in the end. And, you know, and they're off the mark. They're off and running. The Rajasthan Royals have 2 points in the league now. It's kind of opened everything up because every team has either not played 2 games yet or won 1, lost 1, with the exception of Royal Challengers Bangalore, who are at the top of the league. I had a wonderful guest on after Delhi's previous match, Sushant Mehta, and he was quite confident about Delhi's chances in this year's IPL. Like, maybe this is the year they go all the way. They had a very good run last time in the last edition, obviously. I mean, what do you think this kind of match does to the confidence of that Delhi team, who were looking so promising, looking so good, you know, created a chance from out of nowhere and then squandered it again? What will they go back and think about? Do you think they'll make changes for the next match?
They may well do, but the one thing they've got going for them is Ricky Ponting. As head coach, you can't get much better than him. I don't know if you've seen much of the Delhi Capitals social media in the build up to the tournament, you know, before this match as well. Some of those team talks from Ponting, you know, he's still got that enthusiasm. He's still got that drive. He's still got that passion that he had when he was playing in that great Australia side, in which he obviously went on to lead himself as captain for so many years. He's the right man to be able to pull them out after a defeat like this and get their heads straight. He'll know exactly what to do. I suppose a lot depends on Rishabh Pant. We've not seen him as a captain in any top-level cricket previously. He's obviously been handed the responsibility this season. How does he respond as a leader? I thought at some points through that innings when they were in the field, there were some things that impressed me about him. There were arms around the bowler's shoulder when things weren't quite going right. Avesh Khan got smashed for a couple of boundaries. He put his arm around him, gave him that little bit of confidence. Next ball, he takes a wicket. So there were a few good things. The field placings as well, the slips which he had in place for some of that innings, the floating slip, you know, where a catch was taken as well during that chase. So there were a few tactical things which I think he got right. You know, it's too early to tell, I suppose, you know, what you make of him as a leader. We'll need to see him in a few more matches, but it's how he responds, how he can gather the troops together. Because ultimately, yes, Ponting is there. He'll be able to do as much as he can in between matches. But when you step over that white line, over the boundary rope, it's all down to the skipper. He's the man in charge. Can they all rally round him? Have they got enough respect for him as a leader? Which, you know, there's no reason they wouldn't have. But let's just see what he's made of and whether or not he can rally his troops.
Absolutely. I think it'll be fascinating to watch how the Delhi Capitals come back from this, and, you know, maybe a little bit less time dancing in social media videos, boys, and a little bit more time.
That was good though. They were very good. I mean, Chris Woakes was outstanding on that, wasn't he?
Chris Woakes was brilliant on that, and to be fair, very good in the match as well today. But yeah, you can tell he's a Birmingham boy. He's got the moves.
Yeah. I mean, there's no surprise Rishabh Pant, Shikhar Dhawan stealing the show. Ashwin, I wasn't quite sure about. Steve Smith just looked a bit awkward, but yeah, Woakes. I think special mention to Woakes for that.
It was superb. If you've not seen it, you've got to check it out on social media. Right, Nick, very quickly, tomorrow, another big game. They're all big games. The 8th match is tomorrow. Punjab Kings, Chennai Super Kings. Who's going to win the Battle of the Kings?
The Kings, yeah. They almost look like the Royal Challengers Bangalore of old, don't they? Of 2008, in those early years with the red and the gold now, Punjab, instead of the silver, the trim. It's quite a smart kit they've got. It's not about kits though, is it? It's about what you do on the field. I can probably see Chennai pulling this one out of the bag. I think they're due some of their big guns. Dhoni obviously didn't perform in the last match. Jadeja is just coming back from injury. Faf du Plessis, you know, there's a few big guns who are due performances, not only this season, but even last season. They didn't quite click for most of it, really. And I don't know, I think one or two of their big guns are going to stand up, and they'll probably have a little bit too much for the Punjab Kings. But it's so intriguing, this IPL, so many evenly matched squads through the all 8 franchises, really. It's probably too close to call. Mumbai head and shoulders on paper still above the rest, but we've seen what the Royal Challengers Bangalore did in the first game as well. So I don't think anybody's going to run away with it in the league phase this year, but I can see Chennai just pulling one out of the bag tomorrow.
Well, let's see. We will wait and see. Let's see if that aging Chennai team can pull something out, use that experience and pull something out of the bag. Thank you so much, Nikesh, for joining in. Thanks everybody for watching. If you do get a chance and you live in the UK, definitely tune in to BBC 5 Live Sports Extra and the BBC Sport website, where you can hear Nikesh and occasionally myself on commentary for the IPL. But that's it for us. Join us tomorrow. There'll be another post-match chat for another game of cricket. Until then, from Nikesh and myself, bye-bye.